The recent Doors update introduced to us a bizarre new mysterious item which nobody has seemed to figure out. This, of course, is the Buddy item, a seemingly pure white teddy bear that doesn't even have a model in-game. So when you hold it out, it's just invisible. How strange. The purpose of the Buddy has remained a mystery ever since its addition in the Halloween update, and it's been so mysterious that I think it would be an injustice not to talk about it. So in today's video, I'll be analyzing this perplexing new Doors item, and using my deductive skills, I've managed to find some of its odd quirks which could point towards what its true purpose will be. Yeah, we'll not only be analyzing this item, but we'll also figure out why it is the way it is. We have got a lot to discuss today, so with all of that being said, let's begin. Alright, so to start, I want to go over everything we know so far about the Buddy. This item is only obtainable through the admin panel right now, meaning it can't be found anywhere else. It reminds me a lot of the Aloe item prior to its addition to the outdoors, as when it was first added, it too was only obtainable through the admin panel. The thing is though, the Aloe not being fully implemented into the game upon its release was mostly a mistake on the devs' part, and even then the item was crazy bugged. It's still bugged even to this day if I recall correctly. The Buddy on the other hand seems deliberately made to be incredibly mysterious, and that is made apparent through its rather odd characteristics. I've already mentioned its completely invisible model. However, something also to note is how its icon is completely white. The teddy bear icon was intentionally made pure white in a photo editing software to obscure its identity, so this whole thing is very intentional. Additionally, the Buddy item's icon also has the unique characteristic of being circular. This is incredibly bizarre, even by Doors standards, as every single item in the game except this one has a square icon. That trend has existed since Doors released, it's always been like this, except now. As to why the Buddy's icon is circular, I am unsure, I just don't know. It could be part of the overall mystery of the item, however, like I said, I'm not too confident that's correct. However, something I would like to note is that under its icon is a dashed line rather than a filled line. Now, in case you weren't aware, indoors there are two types of items, optional and essential. Optional items are optional to use, and they only serve to benefit the player. These items are denoted with a completely filled line under their icon. Essential items are typically required for progression, such as room keys, and they are denoted with a dashed line under their icon. These items also aren't droppable and can't be removed until they are used for their intended functionality. The Buddy has a dashed line, meaning it's used for some sort of essential purpose outside of just clicking the item. However, speaking of clicking, what happens when you do that with the Buddy? Well, although the item's model is invisible, an animation does exist for using it. The player simply waves around their hand as if they were playing with the item, which makes sense as its icon implies it's a teddy bear. Now that seems pretty wholesome, but digging into the game files reveals that the animation is called whack, which is severely different from what the playful animation suggests. After doing a little bit more research though, I've come to deduce that these animations for the Buddy are actually just reused from other items and item skins, so this may not mean anything. Additionally, the game files also reveal what the item's model looks like if you remove its invisibility, and it appears to just be a pyramid shape, which is likely just a placeholder. Now, other than that, we have covered all the information in the game about the Buddy. So from that information, what can we deduce it will be used for? Well, as I said, given the presence of a dashed line under the item's icon, we know this thing is an essential item. So what does that entail? Well, all essential items are typically used to interact with other stuff within the game. For example, keys interact with locks and fuses interact with generators. Even something like the lotus petals or iron keys, which are technically essential items, even though they are for optional side content, they are still part of a puzzle, as they can be used to create the overall lotus, which you can revive with. Anyways, it's not something like the flashlight where the item can function perfectly fine on its own. No, these things are only one half of a puzzle. The Buddy being an essential item means it's only one half of something greater. It is the key to some objective. However, what is that objective? Well, that's where the teddy bear part comes into play. Now, I don't know why the developers decided to hide the identity of the buddy item's design, but it's pretty obvious based on the silhouette that this thing is a teddy bear. Teddy bears are a type of toy, but given how toys are often used by children, I think the only thing in the entire game this thing can be related to is Sally, the little girl entity. Think about it, Sally is not only the sole child in the entirety of Doors, but their entire gimmick is stealing items to use them specifically as toys. What if we could give her the buddy, an actual toy, which isn't an item, as part of some quest? Now that seems rather speculative, so what other evidence is there connecting Sally to the buddy item? Well, for one, the so-called whack animation, which is actually just the player waving around the item, looks very similar to Sally's playing animation, whenever she gets a hold of an item from the player. Now, like I said, these animations for the buddy item are reused from other items and item skins, so this piece of evidence is a little unstable, but I feel it could still work. Both Sally and the player would wave around their toys, which could act as a connection. Additionally, Sally's lore and story have been heavily expanded upon in recent updates, so she is a very relevant character right now. Having a quest themed entirely around her would be quite fitting, given how she is being handled as a character currently in the modern day of Doors. Now, I will say that there is a possibility that I am looking into this way too much. As I said, the item animations being reused is heavy evidence against this thing being connected to Sally. However, it is entirely possible that this item is unfinished and only exists as a teaser, which could be the case. After all, even the item's model seems to be a placeholder, so this whole thing could just be one big placeholder. It's also possible that this could be just a joke item, as the developers have added joke items in the past, such as the tip jar. In case you didn't know, the whole existence of the tip jar is to be one massive joke. It's not meant to have any purpose, besides being converted into a rift jar. However, I don't think that is the case for the buddy item, due to the various efforts made to differentiate it from all the other items, and to intentionally make it more mysterious and obscure its true purpose by various methods, such as making its icon completely white and adding a circular border around its icon, whereas all the other items in-game have a square icon. So, to summarize, a new mysterious item was introduced in the latest Doors update called the Buddy. Although it is invisible when you hold it out, its inventory icon depicts it as a teddy bear, one whose design was intentionally obscured by the developers. Also, the presence of a dashed line under its inventory icon implies the item will be used for some purpose not revolving around itself, such as interacting with another part of the game. It's believed to be connected to Sally in some way, given how both the item and the entity fit well with each other and how Sally has become very relevant story-wise in recent updates. So, with all of that being said, let me know in the comments what you think of this new item, as well as what your theories are about how it will function, as I'm definitely curious if we'll just give it to Sally or we'll have to do something with it. Although, I got mostly everything down, I think. I may have missed some details, so also let me know about those that I've missed. And thank you all for watching, and I hope you enjoyed.